All right. As the timer hits zero, I want to thank you for joining us at 4 in the morning. I do have a guest with me, and we'll get to him in a moment. But just so we can get to the latest on what's happening with the U.S. presidential election, I'm going to go over what we know right now and what's at play. So, Joe Biden has 264 electoral votes projected in his favor, according to Associated Press. Donald Trump has 214. The race is tight. It's coming down to Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. Biden needs to just clinch one of those four, and he'll have over the 270 to win, and he'll be projected to be the next president. Donald Trump would have to win multiple of them to be able to become the next president of the United States and hold off Biden. At this time, Trump is leading in Pennsylvania and North Carolina, Georgia, and Joe Biden's leading in Nevada. The reason we're live now is that we're hoping to see some more results in regards to Georgia, a state that decided to keep counting overnight, and a state that potentially could swing over to Joseph Biden, but could stay in the hands of Donald Trump. In the other races, in the Senate race, Democratic Party uh, seems to have possibly lost the Senate, but it's not entirely sure on who's going to win and who's going to take it. But it looks like the Republican Party could hold on to the Senate. And then when it comes to the House, the Democratic Party, almost 24 hours ago now, was projected to take it. So obviously, the big race is the presidential election. That's what we're talking about. That's what's at stake right now. I have this live NBC map going off in the background here. But next, I'm going to bring in my friend Ali Alex, who is going to talk a little bit more about sort of the Canadian angle. I'm going to ask him a couple of questions. He's got some opinions. He's going to give a take. But why don't you start it off? Tell me what you think about what's happening so far with the tallies and where you think it's going to head.
Well,
Good question.
that's a very good question. Well, yes, hello, my name is Ali Alex RG, uh, and I have no idea. Honestly, it like recently I just got a news that Arizona that was looking just like it was straight going for Biden. Uh, my friend, who's also Canadian by the way, which I hope he comes on, but I know he's viewing this. He told me that Trump cut into Biden's lead. So Biden had a lead of 4% in Arizona, and now it's less than 2%, which it's funny because I thought Arizona was called
Right.
by Fox of all people. But now it looks like Trump might take Arizona, and I still don't think he will. To me, right now, it looks as if Biden wins, it's going to be the first time in U.S. history that a candidate won by 270 vote.
Right.
Uh, the last time this happened, actually, no, this never happened before, but the last time this was close was 2000's election, Bush versus Gore, where Bush got 271 electoral votes.
Right.
But if Trump wins, it looks like it's actually going to look like a normal victory. So obviously there's some bias there, but if Trump wins, it'll look normal. But if Biden wins, it won't look normal. That's all I'm going to say.
Right, and just for people that are viewing, hopefully you can see in the box there, Arizona was uh, projected by the Associated Press, which is the standard, of course, when calling projections. So they're usually very, very accurate and reliable. 88% reporting at this time. It is close, 50 to 48, but not too, that's pretty average in the ways of how different people are winning in different states. It's not as close as it could be. So we'll see what happens if Arizona is ends up being for Joe Biden. But I would say that if Associated Press is calling it, of course anything can happen, but I would say it'd be very unlikely for that to change at
Yeah.
this time, for sure. And it looks like Nevada is kind of slowly still with the Joe Biden lead at 75% voting reporting. Sorry, but we're not going to know more Nevada numbers necessarily yet. And then we're also waiting, of course, on the Georgia numbers. And the two states that could be up for grabs for Joe Biden are Nevada, Georgia, well, and then also Pennsylvania and North Carolina. It looks like that one's going to go for Donald Trump for sure. Surprised that hasn't been called yet, but of course, with all the uncertainty that's kind of going on, we never know, right? So,
Oh, there's no
so
doubt in my mind.
yeah.
The Pennsylvania will go to Trump. But yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So no, but what I wanted to do was go to you as we're waiting for these Georgia results because that's what we're waiting for right now. Hopefully, to get a little bit of a clearer picture on who's going to take that. Because if we know one or the other is going to take it, then we can cross that off the list and say, okay, we're going to focus on the remaining, big three spots, which would be Pennsylvania, Nevada, or those two. Sorry, because if we could cross off Georgia, so we'll see what happens. But I want to go to you, Ali, with your thoughts because I know you're someone that identifies maybe. Well, I'll let you tell people how you identify, but you're someone that maybe is the unlikely Trump supporter, and maybe you can give some background on that.
What do you mean the unlikely Trump supporter?
Well, in the sense that, well, I'll let you describe it. I'll let you describe how you feel about who you are and why you support the candidate that you do, and maybe that you don't want to have certainly, like, maybe you wouldn't want to be labeled conservative and you're actually liberal. But what's sort of your point of view on everything?
Okay, Adam, do you mind if I plug in my medium?
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, well, my name is AliAlexRG. On every single social media, you put ALEXRG, and I run a Discord server that I would call a patriotic centrist server. We try to be as objectivist and as centrist as possible, uh, but when it comes to global issues, we're more patriotic and more defend the West kind of people. But yeah, so if anyone is watching, please join. We're active every day. Discord.gg/USNA. Very simple. Put that in your browser. Even if you don't have a Discord, put that in your browser. It make an account for you much faster. Now, my personal views, I would call myself a liberal Trump supporter. Uh, I have very, very liberal views when it comes to pretty much everything social. I can't think of anything that's a social issue that I would not take the more classical liberal approach, and I would be on the liberal side of the argument. Uh, in fact, I would actually challenge anybody to try to find any social issue that I would have a conservative view on. That's why I hate being called conservative, because I'm not. I'd actually much prefer being called a nationalist rather than a conservative. Uh, Also, Eli, if you don't mind, put LDSRG as one word.
Yeah, can do.
And then, so yeah, as I was saying, I hate the label conservative, but yeah, I'm definitely a Trump supporter, and I would call myself, yeah, again, a liberal Trump supporter. When it comes to, uh, well, when it comes to why I support Trump, that's going to be a long speech of why. So, but that. If that's the background you wanted, I hope you're happy with that.
Right. No, that's fair. So, what would you say to people that say, okay, you're a liberal, but how can you be a liberal and support Trump at the same time? Because typical liberal values would maybe say, hey, I'm for the environment, I'm for um, maybe a cleaner Twitter feed, whatever it might be. What kind of, those kind of values? I think people would be confused if you said, okay, I'm a liberal, especially in the Canadian context, and then but you actually support Trump. Maybe you can explain why. And I do see we have another guest here, so I've added them in. Is this the person you were talking about, Ali?
No, but this guy is he's a good kid. He's he's under 18, but he's open-minded, and he seems to be good at taking in new information. So I like this guy too. But the guy I was talking about is a fellow Canadian who I would call him actually conservative, and he would call himself conservative as well. And he's the one who showed me that, yeah, Trump is cutting into Arizona's lead.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead though. On the liberal values thing, what do you say to people that maybe say, okay, you're not? How can you be liberal and support Donald Trump? Maybe on the environment, for example.
Right. Okay. Well, the way I would say it, and I think this is the one thing that a lot of today's liberals don't understand, is, to me, like, socialism or democratic socialism is not liberal. Uh, that's the thing that everyone gets wrong, is they think socialism is a super liberal position when it's not. You can call it a super progressive position, which I wouldn't even call it that, but sure, you can call it that, but it's not. Uh, when it comes to the environment, that's actually my issue. Is let's take the Paris Climate Accord, for example. Most of today's liberals support that, but the problem is they don't understand what's going on. Liberalism would go to the concept that we shouldn't have a foreign power telling us what to do. When it comes to defending the planet, protecting the environment, and this whole climate change, I'm not saying climate change is made up. I'm not even saying it's man-made. I'm not even saying it's natural. I do believe it's man-made. So that's actually, the environment is one of the one of the only issues, if not the only issue, that you could say I disagree with Trump on. But I was having a look at carbon emissions by Canada and USA. And 2015, we elected Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, which I actually voted for in 2015. Uh, and he seems to be like one of the most anti climate change prime ministers ever, right? Because he wants to save the planet and climate change, blah blah blah. And Trump was accused of being a global warming denier. And then looking at the carbon emissions of Canada and USA, I noticed under Trudeau, ours went up. Under Trump, theirs went down. And I was like, that is really weird. And the statistic I have from that is from NASA, so it's not a right wing source. It's NASA, and I was so surprised, and I was like, what's going on here? And then I realized it's more about power and special interest groups. So the issue is, I do believe we need to save the planet. I do believe in reducing carbon emissions, but I don't want some foreign power telling us what to do and telling us how to control our economy, just to save the planet, quote unquote. So
Right.
that's my biggest issue on the environmental side. What was the other thing you asked me?
Well, and I was just gonna say there, I'm gonna look into that. Hopefully, fact check that the idea that the U.S. is doing better on the emissions. But to just be clear to people that are watching, with when it comes to things like the Paris Agreement, it's entirely voluntary. So it's not like another government is telling the Canadian government what to do. They're signing on to it voluntarily, trying to reach those goals. Just to be clear on that sense. Yeah, so I actually I do want to bring in Shenmue if he or she is willing. I don't even know if that's your first name, but I don't know if you're going to use video or what's going on. But you can give your take if you'd like on what Ali said, or just the U.S. general, the election in general, and then we'll go back to you, Ali.
Um, to start off with, yeah, I currently don't have a webcam, so I just use Minicam, if because some places require you, and it works as a camera. But actually, I support Joe Jorgensen. But I found,
Oh,
because I'm a libertarian, but I found when people ask for what most would consider the main two, Trump or Biden, Trump is a lot better for the smaller government things that I would like. So I would say that Trump is also better on that regard for libertarians, which is very similar to liberals. Most would call it classical liberalism. Holy shit, I'm too tired for this.
can you hear him? He's very quiet for me.
Yeah, he just at the end there, it got super quiet. Be able to maybe turn up your mic or something like that.
Is this better?
There we go. That should work. That sounds a bit better on my
Okay.
end.
So do you want me to say what I said again, or?
Yeah, just the last part there.
Yeah, I was just saying that I would say Trump is better for classical liberals or libertarians like myself, because he has cut regulations, things like that. So on regards of the election, I would say he is better for the classical liberals, at least.
And is that something you would agree with then, Ali?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't agree with Shenmue on small government because, like I said,
Well, not
no, no,
entirely,
no, no,
but
no, no.
sometimes.
Trump is more pro small government, but like I said, I'm not a conservative, so I'm not a big fan of small government. But again, you're right though. Uh, it does make more sense. Trump is more closer to libertarianism and classical liberalism than Biden is. That's for sure. Uh, but yeah, no, I don't disagree with anything Shenmue said. I'm just disagreeing. Just my personal view. I'm just not a small government guy. That's it.
Right, right. So now that I kind of have two of you, I did this earlier on the early stream, and then one, and also yesterday, this kind of speed round thing. So what I'm gonna do in Shenmue, are you Canadian or American? Hopefully I'm saying it right.
He's American.
American. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna do kind of like a speed round on which candidate is better for Canada, dependent on issue. So I'm gonna say the issue. Let's say the issue is sports, and then we'll just go Ali Shenmue, Ali Shenmue. So and then you can say the candidate's name. So if I said sports, and then you said Trump, and then you can just add one sentence. Okay, I think Trump is good for Canadian sports because he'll give everyone free hockey sticks, whatever it is. You can kind of whatever it happens to be. So yeah, I'll start it off. I'll make it easy right off at the beginning. So the economy. Which candidate is better, Ali Go than Shenmue?
See, okay, that's
Canadian economy, by the way.
I know. Okay, fine. For the short term, Biden is way better for Canada's economy. Long term, no, he's terrible for the entire Western economy.
Okay. And Shenmue?
I would say Trump.
For
For
Canada's
Canada's
economy?
economy, I would say that I'm not too familiar with Canada. I would say he was pretty good though, because he really only puts tariffs on China. But I would say boosting the economy in the USA for trade would help.
Right. And I think I'll jump in there just, and that's fine because I mean, you're probably not thinking about Canada too much, but Trump did slap tariffs on Canada recently, even with steel.
Yeah.
So there's steel and aluminum, and he does it quite arbitrarily, actually.
Yeah,
But on one hand, when the U.S. economy is doing well, that impacts Canada positively. So there's arguments for both sides that I could see happening. And I'm not trying to call you out because I know Canada's not your focus, but I think I saw Ali at that point too. Was like, well, actually,
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt because I don't know how you usually do these things. So I just coughed. But yeah, no,
no,
he's not.
yeah.
He's not
To
good for himself.
clarify, I was not familiar with those, and
no worries.
I'm not for tariffs. I like a smaller government, so I would prefer the government stays out of it. So I was not familiar with those, but with that knowledge, I would say he he is helping the American economy, which I would say helps, but tariffs are not good. I would say at least.
Right. Okay. And yeah, and I'm not trying to call you, especially on a subject that's kind of maybe not, it's not your country, right? So, but I'll go to the next one. So we touched on economy. So the next for me would be climate change, or climate, the economy, the environment question. Which candidate is better for Canada and why? Ali, go.
Wait. Uh.
Climate
So
change.
which? Uh. Well, obviously for the global impacts of climate change, there's no doubt that Biden really wants to tackle that. But for Canada's, I would actually say that one's weird because for that one, I think Trump will just make us look good. But globally, no. Obviously, Biden is much more what's it called climate change focused. So I hope that answers the question.
Right.
But
Okay.
Trump makes us look good.
Right. Shenmue.
I would say, just in regards to only climate change, uh, Biden. But I would say when you tie in other things, it's not great. But only on climate change itself, Biden. Yeah.
Yeah, for Canada. All right. And Biden did say, for the record, that he would re-enter the Paris Agreement, and Trump would not do that, or actually pulled out officially as of today, I believe it was. So it's the contrast on the sort of environment file is there, but there's also some small nuances where Trump is trying different things, and Biden would do something a little bit different. So the next one I would say is for the long-term impact of the Canada-U.S. relationship. So, in your opinion, which candidate would be better for sort of the relationship at the very highest levels between Canada and the United States? Ottawa and Washington D.C. Which candidate is better in general for you, Ali?
When it comes to U.S.-Canada relationships, uh, short-term Biden, long-term Trump.
Okay, and I want to I know this is supposed to be one sentences, but you know what? I want to hear why. I want to hear why the short-term Biden and the long-term Trump.
Because I do believe uh, Biden is more of a pro-war kind of guy, and Trump is the anti-war one. So, and in the short term, uh, it's obvious. In the short term, Biden is the perfect candidate in every, pretty much, I would say 99% of categories. Short term, Biden's perfect. Uh, and the thing is, short term, he's gonna make Canada and U.S. more friendly with each other. Washington and what's it called? Washington and Ottawa. But long term wise, I don't think it's good for the world to have so many wars and have so many troops from Canada and USA, and especially in the Middle East and all over the world. And it's gonna make us look horrible. And I mean, just war in general. In general, it's not good.
So it's like a reputation issue for you. You see kind of in the long term. Okay, I see where you're getting at.
Yeah.
And Shinmu?
I think I mostly agree. Biden generally seems to be like, and Trump seems more like in his ways, I guess. So like when it comes to diplomacy, like where they talk, I would say maybe Biden, but Trump definitely has less wars. But I would say Trump is kind of more, uh, I I guess in Trump's ways.
Right. So the next sort of topic that I wanted to move on to was your thoughts, both of you, on this idea of some people will call it censorship and some people will call it just flagging or being responsible, depending where you sit on it. But Trump shared a bunch of tweets this morning, and they were sort of had this little warning above it that said, you had kind of have to go into the tweet to be able to press it, and it was blocked from being able to be viewed. So you guys may have seen those. It says some or all of the content shared in this tweet is disputed and might be misleading about an election or other civic process. And then we also had a bunch of Democrats calling for his account to be suspended. What are your thoughts on that idea of the social media networks kind of clamping down and putting these tags on things? Different networks have different responses. So Facebook won't do something as kind of intense as that. They'll just put a little flag at the bottom that says our fact checkers have flagged this, and they do that externally, which is interesting because that kind of puts whatever backlash it's off of them. It's on whatever the fact checker said. And then Twitter goes a little step further, and they actually block tweets on the timeline. You have to go into the tweet to see it. So maybe I'll start with you, Shenmu, because I started with Ali before. What are your thoughts in general just on that, and you can dive into that.
Um, Sorry.
Sure.
I think private companies should be able to pretty much do whatever they want with their own company. But when it comes to the copyright provisions, a lot of these companies are still held as platforms rather than publishers. And if they are going to uh, do this to whoever they like, I support their right to. But I also say they should be changed to a publisher to change some of the copyright protections. But yeah, I support their right to, pretty much.
Okay. So as someone who believes in kind of businesses able to do that, you're not of the kind of line that's okay, this is a public square, and so it has to be always open. Okay. Yeah. All right, Ali, you wanna give your take on that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you hear that? Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter censored the president of the United States of America. That, if that's not an example of corporate fascism, then I don't know what is. I would love for anybody to show me anything that's more of a corporate fascist like that. That is disgusting. They are censoring the president of the United States of America. That that goes against with my other issue on libertarians and conservatives. Wait, can you guys see me?
Yep.
I can't even see myself.
We can see you. I can see you.
No, you guys have both been
Uh,
frozen for me for a while, but I checked, and you guys were fine, so I didn't say anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
uh,
good.
you guys have been frozen for me for a while.
what? I can't even see.
Oh, now you're up. Oh, he's completely gone now. Oh, there we go. And he's back.
Okay, hello.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. So that's what you're saying. They censored the president of the United States of America. That that's one of my issues with the libertarians and conservatives is they go with the private with the private company argument. They go like, oh yeah, they're a private company, they're a private publisher, whatever, do whatever they want. Uh, I do love what Shenmue said. It is actually very important for us to distinguish what the hell they are. Are they a platform or are they a publisher? That's very important. But that's the issue with the whole small government approach. Is companies like Facebook, Twitter, and Google have become way, way too powerful. And that's something that has changed about me in the last 4 years. I used to be like, yeah, whatever, it's their company, let them do it. But now I say, no, 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 they are way too powerful. And yes, Eli, I would say this is the public square. And they're controlling the speech in the public square. That is disgusting and that's extremely authoritarian of them. Uh, right now, this is a thing that the law really needs to clamp down on is either the platform, the publisher, and something needs to be done about this. I've done my best over the last 2 years to support alternative platforms, but no, they're killing us. They're killing us. They're not. They are censoring our voices, and this has got to stop. Because if you don't give a chance for people to speak their mind, if you don't give people the freedom to express their problems, then they'll find some other dangerous ways to express their issues, and it's gonna be ugly, and no one's gonna be happy. And I would have just said, I told you so, because you silenced their voices. So now they're going to have to use other ways of making sure they're heard. I'm not encouraging violence, but I'm saying these companies are making it almost inevitable.
Right. I do want to point out that a lot of these flaggings that happen, and I'm not talking about suspension of accounts because that seems to happen to a lot of different accounts, including myself, actually. But when it comes to the putting the flags on the different tweets, that only seems to be for now really high, the top officials kind of thing. So Trump administration and the people that work in it so far. So I don't know if, if do you think that because it's Trump, if they leave it at that, if it's, let's say, their sort of line that they don't cross as the president, does that make it okay for you then? Because
No,
if he's okay, even if he's spreading misinformation as the president?
uh, well, that's the issue. Is some information are not misinformation. Some things are actually just objective, and some things are subjective, and most things are actually in between. Uh, I don't even think anybody should be censored unless you're flat out calling an action like let's go kill these group of people or these people should be attacked or these whatever, unless you're not physically saying something like that. If you, no matter what your position in government or outside of government is, you shouldn't be censored like this.
Right, but a
No,
lot of
no, no, wait,
people.
wait, but
Oh,
if you're saying no, wait, are you saying if it's just Trump? So if they're not censoring conservatives but they're censoring Trump, are you asking me that?
no, I was gonna say, as you said, here's the line. It's if someone's saying go attack people, a lot of people would say that Trump's tweets are inciting people. The things that he's put out on his Twitter has led to a narrative that have led to things like Charlottesville. So, and in that case, you have deaths and you have injury. And so, and kind of what you just said there, to people that would say, hey, Trump is tweeting things that could lead to violence, what do you say to them? Because you just said that the line that would be crossed would be the violence. So if it's the president of the United States, huge Twitter following, what is it right now? It's at 88.1 million followers, right? massive following. What do you say to people that say, okay, that's violent? And then Shenmue, I'll go to you next to kind of speak on the other part of it. But yeah, Ali.
Well, here's the thing. Unless Trump specifically, like I said, specifically, nothing about leading to whatever, okay, saying, let's go kill group of people, let's go kill this group of people, then yes, I would agree, even if he's the president, he should be, well, actually, his account, if you say something, your account should be suspended. If, in fact, I would even take this to the courts, because that is a very dangerous statement. But it's funny how to hear something like it would lead to Charlottesville. The Antifa riots of the last, and Black Lives Matter, Antifa and BLM riots of the past few months have cost, I don't know if this is true or not, you should fact check me, but apparently they have cost as much as the American Civil War, and they have so far taken 36 lives. And I would make strong arguments that the current rhetoric spewed by Justin Trudeau, Bernie Sanders, the entire mainstream media, I would say they are partially to blame for that, but I don't think they should be charged or they should be censored. But I would actually make stronger cases for more violence from the left than from the right. In fact, my fear is actually I'm more scared of the radical right than the radical left, because the radical right is much more effective and accurate. Like throughout history and even the present day, the left has usually just been the chaotic ones, while the right has been the more organized and exact approach. And a best example would literally be when people cite, oh, communism has killed 10 times, or not 10 times, they say like 5 times more people than fascism. But the difference is fascism killed the specific type of people they were looking for, and they were much more uh, effective and deliberate for it. While communism ended up killing like people from literally Soviet Union and China, and also killed foreigners. You know what I mean? It was a more scattered amount of deaths, while fascism was more exact.
Right.
So,
Okay. So, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, that's it.
No. So for Ali, I'm seeing that. Okay. So definitely not, unless there's sort of a direct call for violence against certain people. That there shouldn't be censorship like that, even if it's inaccurate, such as the one that he tweeted that said there's a large number of secretly dumped ballots, as has been widely reported, which was not true at the time, and it's not true currently. So, Shenmue, maybe you want to go on this idea because you're saying that Twitter totally has the right to do those censorships because it's a private company. As someone that believes in businesses' rights to kind of do things, from what I'm gathering, you think that's okay?
Um, so I would agree with, unless it is a direct call to violence, uh, then they don't necessarily have to ban it. And personally, I disagree with it. But right now, actually, I am against Twitter doing certain things to the president because they are considered a publisher. But if they were changed to a platform, I think anyone can can Twitter can ban anyone for anything, uh, as long as it's within the law. Like even if someone's breaking the law, Twitter, I would say still probably has to ban them, but you could still also just legally process them and maybe leave the post up. But I would say still ban them. But besides that, they can be banned for anything or not banned for saying indirect things, but within the law, as long as they're classified as a publisher.
So I guess the question, to go back to Ali, what for the future of something like Twitter, where it's a lot of reporters and government officials and people like Trump, and Trump has kind of brought a lot of attention back to Twitter, but even before Trump, it was definitely the home of government accounts, updates, journalists, whatever. Do you think that the future of Twitter needs to be something where it's publicly owned somehow? Like, how do we transition to that public square, do you think, and do that way? And then also, what would you say to people that, would call for some regulation? Because, I mean, you say that it should just be kind of anybody can say anything, but in the past, when we have a public square, it's usually been before the internet. There's gatekeepers, which is a lot of the times the media. So go on a show, you talk on TV, you talk in a newspaper, and people were able to say things. You could send in letters to the editor, but there was this idea of there was decency, and that you could send in a letter. You might be left, right, middle, in between, whatever you are, but that there's some sort of, you can't just spew nonsense sort of idea. So when you have the president of the United States that is in essence, and I can say this being factual, multiple times spewed nonsense, like direct lies on Twitter that directly impact Americans, and go out to millions of Americans that are looking to their president for information. Where do you think, and you kind of said already where the line was, but how do you think this transitions to a public square? And how do you contrast this idea? Because you're saying it should be a public square, or if it is a public square, it should be treated that way. But public squares, quote unquote, in the past have been have had this sort of gatekeeper mentality, in the sense that there's got to be some decency before you can join in on the conversation.
Well, no, that's the issue, and the gatekeepers are the issue. Gatekeeping is just another way of censoring. Uh, that issue of them filtering certain things is my exact problem. Now, I understand that Trump has said some very false things on Twitter, and I can't even deny it, so I can't even disagree with it. But the issue is, it's still his right to say it, especially as the president. But I don't want to sound like, oh, I support free speech for the president, but not for citizens. But either way, it's very important not to stop that. In fact, why not beat him with arguments? Why not beat him with facts? Why do you have to beat him with authoritarianism? That actually shows more weakness on the other side. And also, just a little side note, are you also streaming this on Facebook?
Yep, absolutely.
Could you send me the Facebook link as well?
Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so you're saying if Trump is wrong, beat him with facts, not with what you would say would be censorship.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna and do you have any response to that, Shenmue, on your end? Just while I grab this link.
Pretty much what I've said before is, as long as they're classified as a publisher, ban him or censor him as much as they want, regardless if he's the president. And I did hear you mention regulation earlier. I am definitely against that, because it's usually easier for smaller companies to open up when there's less regulation, because oftentimes they need to check certain things about it. It can be generally more expensive. And there is competition for Twitter. Most of them still do censor. But if you look at a place like 4chan, which is mostly a hellhole, but on some parts of it, it can be somewhat organized. So I mean, you can always go to places like that. So I would still say competition in markets still helps with that, even if it doesn't really look like it, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, I do support the right to ban him if they're a publisher. But right now, as far as I know, they are considered a platform. So I actually say no, pretty much.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing, and that's my issue with the whole free market argument. When a monopoly is created, the free market is no longer uh, there's no longer free. It's just no longer liberty, because then when one company is pretty much ahead of all the other companies in the market, then they could literally control the speech and control the information. I believe it was Noam Chomsky who said the greatest weapon of the 21st century is not guns or nuclear bombs. It's is the control of information, and he's totally correct on this. And right now we have a big issue with just a 50-kilometer radius. just a little radius of land in Silicon Valley controlling most of the information globally. That is terrible. Like in that 50-kilometer radius of Silicon Valley, there's literally the heads of Google, Patreon, Apple, Twitter, Facebook. Uh, I think Spotify. I saw like a list. There was like 10 companies, and it's just in a little 50-kilometer radius. And I was like, wow, these companies pretty much rule the internet. I know that's kind of an exaggeration because no one really rules the internet, but you know what I mean. When it comes to the most famous sites, I would strongly make a case for yeah, there's just 10 companies in a little bit strips of land in California that just controls the internet, which is pretty much the what do you call the internet? Like a media? No, the internet is
The biggest public square, the online
sure,
public square.
sure,
Yeah,
the global public square.
the global public. And I do want to point out too, and that I would say that they're probably the most influential for sure. But there are in places like China and some of the other Asian countries, there are equivalents to Facebook that are not owned within that 50-kilometer square, and they are independent and they're based in their own countries and they're used the most in those people. But I get what you're saying that for the most part, yes, that's totally accurate. But I think the most popular social network is not in Silicon Valley. I'm pretty sure just because of the vast number of people that use WeChat, I believe it is, they are. But I definitely get where you're getting at. Um,
Wait,
okay,
does
so
WeChat have more viewers or viewers and users than Google?
if you want me to look that up, most I did. Uh,
I'm looking that up right now because I've heard of WeChat, but I would be
It's
shocked if
one of the top three, something like that. Yeah, it's number four according to makeawebsitehub.com, which may not be the most accurate thing, but um, I mean, you're gonna find it in that top three, I guess, four accounts. But and then I see something called QQ.
oh that's
Uh,
let's see. I
right,
think
and I do want to bring the map in for a sec because it's getting close in these places. Just as you're looking up where WeChat is, Nevada and Georgia. So I'm talking with a couple of Americans right now who are one is a supporter of Biden for sure, and he's looking at it right now and he's a little bit nervous about Nevada and also about Georgia. Which right now Georgia is sitting at 98% reporting. Donald Trump is at 49.6% of the vote, and Biden is at 49.2%. So Trump has 2,430,000 ish, and Joe Biden is at 2.4 million. And it's getting close right there. And we haven't had new results in Georgia for some time now. We haven't had new results in Nevada for some time now. Nevada, we're going to have to see. That'll probably be coming later today, potentially in a couple of hours in the AM. Um, but for those that tuned in, thank you for doing that. We'll probably wrap it up at 5 on the dot. We'll do so 5 a.m. Eastern. But let's keep this convo going because it's really interesting, especially the censorship concept and what's going on with that. Um, do you
Well,
think?
actually, speaking of which,
Yeah,
if you need something to talk about, I sent you something really good on Discord. I sent it to you personally,
right.
and there's some pretty pictures you can show your audience. Uh, they'll see that his claims of election stealing aren't baseless, and that's what I've noticed a lot about Trump. Is Trump doesn't okay. The thing about Trump's claims, and only after I'll be honest, I only recently I've noticed it got like this. At the beginning, there was just some extremely false facts that he put out, but in the last 2 years, Trump puts out facts that are like maybe 30% wrong, but the base idea, even let's just go, let's be liberal, let's say 50% wrong. It's still the basis of the facts are there. While when I see things that, especially the opinion section on every single mainstream media says, they just go things that are just opposite of the truth almost. just flat wrong, and that's something that not a lot of people are talking about for some reason. Uh, this, especially when I heard about critical race theory, if that gets legislated, that's just like that's exactly what a fascist company would or country would put. It's just, and I challenge anybody to just read anything about the critical race theory and tell me, wouldn't the Nazis do something similar to this, but just make it about white people? Just I challenge anyone to prove me otherwise. The critical race theory stuff, it looks like very very strong fascist propaganda, and I challenge anyone. Like I said, tell me if the Nazis wouldn't do something just like that if they had power.
Well, I'm looking. Feel free to kind of respond to him there, Shenmue, if you have a thought on that. Kind of some bold claims for sure. I'm just trying to go through. You can see in your bottom right corner this story about the 138,000 votes, and it looks like that was a typo. Um, and I'm trying to look and see what's going on with these different spots. Okay, so Wisconsin, you're seeing some jumps with the different dumps. Well, we do know that Trump is trying to challenge that, but yeah, Shinmu, if you wanted to respond, go for it.
No, like, like personally, I do disagree with the censorship. I just think they have the, sorry, I just think they have the right to. But like personally, I think they probably should or shouldn't rather. But yeah, I definitely do think it is a little bit authoritarian, or quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, he does say false things, but it still can be or can at least lead to authoritarianism. But I do still support their right if they do become a publisher to do whatever they want. But currently they are platforms, so actually they
Yeah,
should, I would say.
exactly. Actually, did you also hear about the random increase of votes in uh, Michigan? That there's even pictures. Have you heard of that, censor, Shenmue? Hmm?
Sorry, yeah, I didn't hear you.
No, Shenmue. Do you believe there's any voter suppression going on? Votes being dumped or votes being added? Do you believe
I
any of that's going on?
I think it definitely looks weird because my prediction was Trump would get the rest though. In Wisconsin, it's not insanely close. Could definitely be closer, but that's like the only thing I'm necessarily weirded out by. But I don't necessarily say like votes getting down. Or, I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I just doubt it.
Okay, fair enough. I mean,
Do
the
you
whole idea of
honestly, Ali, do you think that, in your opinion, are you certain, or do you have an inkling, from your point of view, that you think that there is some rigging happening? Like, do you actually believe that there are people that are adding votes and trying to swing this in Biden's direction when it comes to the people that are supposed to be impartial and just count ballots? Do you think that there's actually something going on there, or do you think that some of this is a mixture of mistakes, miscommunication, and the right wing kind of promoting things that are maybe not necessarily true? What do you think?
uh, I don't know. I think it's definitely worth looking into,
Right.
and I do agree that yeah, I definitely think the right is a little bit uh, just jumping on conspiracy sometimes. In fact, a lot of times, but I just don't think again it's the majority of the right is just being crazy and oh it's because their candidates are losing. Uh, I think again it's very very suspicious and it is very important to look into, but I can't say for sure if I think it's actually happening or not. Uh,
Right. And we do know that they're looking into it because Rudy Giuliani held a press conference yesterday now, that would be on Wednesday, and said, hey, we're looking into what he believed to be fraud all over the place. And Trump said ahead of the election that he had lawyers everywhere. It was widely reported that there's a lot of lawyers for both sides on standby. So if there is something going on, do you think that they'll figure it out with all their lawyers, or?
100%. They will figure it out. They have to, for the sake of democracy and for the sake of U.S. and even for the sake of Western civilization. Uh, I think they have to. I worry. I worry if I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's always possible to. It is always possible to cheat and get away with it. But then again, I do think we do have very good technologies and we have honest, well, mostly honest people in the what's it called? I don't say postal system, but in the voter account system.
Right.
Because I think they understand is, at least I hope they understand the fact that whether they like it or not, the person who got the vote should win.
Right.
For the sake of anything, like and it's not just an important lesson in life, which it is, but it's also just important in general, and it's something a lot of young people have to understand is whether you like it or not in life, sometimes you lose, sometimes your candidates lose. Don't automatically assume it's cheating or whatever. Things always don't go your way. That's well, that was loud.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Once
wanted
again,
to get this
things
up.
don't always go your way.
I wanted to get this up next and kind of get Shenmu's thoughts and also Ali's thoughts on this. Quick is so we have these images of uh, at least in this one polling place. Now there could be more, but I don't know for sure. Where they have police that are armed with whatever they're armed with. I think they have a pistol. I think they have a baton, whatever it is, and they're going out to stand in front of protesters that, at least in this location, were pretty much mostly Trump supporting protesters that were saying, okay, we want to keep everything valid. They were there to stand up for having a transparent count. So, but apparently, it was reported that the people that were on the inside, or at least the people that were counting, were feeling kind of intimidated. And that's obviously why the police were there to keep everybody out, all the protesters. So now, do you think that it's Trump's place to tweet, or however it might be, probably through Twitter, to say, hey, I want you guys to go home and leave them to count? And we do have our designated people to look at the ballots. So those are called challengers. So the people that are sent in Canada, we have those too, but they're called observers. I find that interesting, kind of a different grammatical sense. One's more aggressive than the other. And it's interesting
Sure.
that the American one is the aggressive one, the challenger, and the Canadian one is the observer. And of course,
Oh,
we have Elections Canada, and that's a
what a
whole
surprise.
other topic. That's a whole other topic, right? But I think so. The both parties have their designated challengers, but obviously these protesters are not the designated challengers. These are just Trump supporters. They're showing up to say, let's make it good, make it transparent. They're acting on what could be misinformation about the idea that the ballot is not being fair. So you have these people here. Do you think that it's Trump's place to say go home? What do you think? Let's start with Shenmue, because then we get that American perspective, and then Ali, you can go next.
Can you hear me well?
A little
No.
quiet.
All right, I'm trying. My mic isn't great, so I'm trying to get between loud and or crappy and quiet. Sorry. Um, and are you talking about the protesters or the police to go home?
So I would say for the Trump supporting protesters that are making the vote counters feel intimidated inside this, as it was reported, inside this facility. So we have these people right here. You can see on the video, and then right outside that door, I believe, is where you have these big crowds. It's on my TV right now. Actually, I wish I could just show that,
Yeah.
but we kind of have these big crowds, and I'm going to see if I can actually get that up right now. But sorry, yeah, go ahead while you're talking.
I think he probably should kind of weird because I do think something. I think something is strange. I don't know if it's necessarily a big conspiracy, but like I do support the right to protest. But I think he probably should tell them to go home. But I also think we should also have some observers in there. There, in some places, things can be fishy, but I think just try and keep the ballots fair as possible, and I think Trump should most likely tell them to probably stay home. That if the police need to show up, I'm kind of against it, but I do think they should be allowed.
Right. Okay, and so Ali, you saw some of those images that were coming up. You saw that I just had that up there from NBC, and they were talking about. And Shenru, don't worry, we can still hear you. I just put the image down, but you saw that outside. You saw that there was these supporters that were there, and they weren't happy, and they wanted to make sure that there was a valid vote count. So should Trump tell them to go home? Do you agree with what Shenru is saying, that perhaps there's some validity to the sort of allegations that are going on from the Trump camp, and that maybe there needs to be some more oversight, but also that maybe these people should go home so that they can focus on voting? What do you think? Vote counting.
Well, that's that's interesting. I don't think Trump simply tweeting, "Hey, you guys should go home," will work. Maybe some of them will, but and based on everything I've seen so far, I could see why some people would be angry and very suspicious. And I wouldn't do that if I was them. I wouldn't go there and intimidate the pollers because I think that's going to delay things even more. So I do think, I personally do think those protests should go home, uh, especially with the coronavirus happening. But even if it wasn't for that, like you should go home and try to let them do their job as fast as possible. They should practice a little bit of patience, and we should.
Yeah. Oh, and just to be fair, the Democratic side is also having protests, although they're not doing the intimidating, the vote counting people, but they are marching through Portland, whatever it would be, and they're marching with signs that says "Let them vote." So I'm guessing, especially your comment on the coronavirus, I found that kind of interesting. I'm assuming that your logic would also apply to them, like send the Democrats, the Biden supporters home as well, kind of thing.
Well, yeah. Again, anybody. Why, why would I have a different view on someone else's supporter? Just
Yeah.
either way. No, I think it's just, again, people should go home. But obviously, I'm not saying police should force everybody to go home. I'm just saying be patient. Just go home. Let them count, and let's see what's going on. I think the most important thing is if you see or hear anything suspicious, you should definitely let your local authorities know and try to record it, try to film it. But right now, just being in front of a polling station isn't going to do any good. Just
Right.
just marching or walking or protesting is not going to do anybody any good. It's, if anything, it would just delay the process.
Okay. And as we kind of wrap this up, Shenmu, I'm going to go to you for some final thoughts on people that are watching. What should they be waiting for? In the coming, I guess in the coming day, we'll definitely find out more information. We know that more information is coming. Perhaps we'll all be back here in a couple hours streaming again. Once we have something else, we didn't get anything from Georgia, which is what we were waiting for. But and it looks like we're not going to have results for several hours now, although it could come at any time. So if there was like a kind of closing message, what are your thoughts, Shenmu?
I guess just I don't know. Wait, I don't really have much to say. It seems to be going slow and maybe a little strange, but it seems like everything is working out fine for the most part.
All right, thank you, and thank you for joining us for sure. And then Ali, what are your thoughts?
what on the election so far?
Or just to wrap up our whole chat, we went through censorship, we went through who would be better for Canada, we went for who you think's going to win, that kind of stuff. For people that are watching, maybe from Canada especially, what I guess message after this particular stream do you have? And yeah.
Uh, well, my message to anybody watching is definitely understand your area's gun laws and self-defense laws, whether you're in Canada, US, or any country. Understand what you are allowed to do. I'm not saying you should be scared or ready for a fight, but it's always better to be safe than sorry, or as Canadians say, sorry. But either way, I think it's important not to randomly get emotional and jump to conclusions. Like I keep saying before, life doesn't always go your way, so you should be patient, and sometimes you got to take losses. Either way, just wait until the actual results come, and yeah, just the best thing to do is join my Discord server. That's we have amazing political and psychological tests and analysis, and it's not only good for you, but it's actually good for the world if they understand their politics and democracies and laws much better.
Right, and both these guys came from that server as well, so you
Yeah.
could tell already that there's some different diverse opinions. Definitely something to check out.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
There you go. All right, well, hopefully we'll be back in a couple hours. Hopefully you'll be back on this stream too, Ali. Thanks for joining us. And as I kind of close it off, I'm going to go over the last couple of numbers and what's going to go on, and then we'll sign off for the next couple hours, and then we'll see what's happening. So I'm going to pull up the AP numbers. Joe Biden is at 264. Donald Trump is at 214. Those are projected electoral college votes that go in their favor from AP. The big states that haven't been decided yet are Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. It's Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Georgia where it's really coming down to the wire. And a win from Biden on any of these four states, if he is a projected winner, would put him over that threshold for 270, and he would win the White House, or he'd be the projected winner of the White House. And then Donald Trump would need to win Alaska, where he's probably likely going to win, and he would need to win several of these states, not just one, to be able to win over Biden. So that's where we stand. The Senate is looking to go Republican, but we don't have a complete projection on that from the Associated Press. And the House has already gone Democrat as projected by the Associated Press. So you're going to have to stay tuned for the next couple of hours as we see where this goes, and stay with us. Well, actually, we'll be signing off now, but like and subscribe, or if you're on Facebook, follow the page, like the page, and then we'll be live probably within the next maybe 5 to 7 hours, whenever we get some real results coming in, to talk about it, to break it down and see what happens next. So thank you for tuning in. It's been really great, and have a good morning or night, wherever you are.